Hey crew, so we are going to continue our work with the path problems in the story of Hansel and Gretel, and our targets, like I said, are going to be the same. I can use addition and subtraction strategies to find the sum. Okay, I can skip count by 5s and 10s. So that means that we're using what we know about addition and subtraction to find our missing numbers. And a lot of times that comes in helpful when we can skip count. So it's the same targets, but today we're going to add something new. Okay, so Hansel and Gretel, we talked about yesterday, came to a fork in the path and they couldn't drop a pebble without it not being seen, right? If they dropped it too far away, it'd be really hard for them to see and they wouldn't know which way to go. So they decided to drop a pine cone every 5 steps, right? So they had a pebble every 10 steps, a pine cone every 5 steps. Well, today they've added in something new. They used a breadcrumb every 1 step. So it says, here is the very first part of the path marked with breadcrumbs, pine cones, and pebbles. It begins at step 1. Use the clues in the key to help figure out the number of steps it takes to get to each of the objects marked with an empty box. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to fill these in, but now there's an added object, breadcrumbs. So breadcrumbs are every 1 step, pine cones are every 5 steps, and pebbles are every 10 steps. So if we looked at this on a number line, we would know that breadcrumbs are 1, 2, 3, 4, pine cones are 5, breadcrumbs are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so these are breadcrumbs. Zackerman's going to try to draw a breadcrumb, right? These are pine cones. And these are pebbles. Okay, so a breadcrumb every 1 step, a pine cone every 5 steps, a pebble every 10 steps. We're going to use this key, which gives us this information. It tells us what each of these symbols mean to help us fill this out. Okay, so we know that breadcrumbs are 1 step. Here's step number 1. 1 step plus 1, 2. So 1 plus 2 more breadcrumbs is 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Then we're at number 3. We have another breadcrumb, and then we come to a pine cone. Well, we don't have to do addition because we know that this pine cone is dropped every 5 steps. This is the first pine cone. This is step 1. This is step 3. This pine cone has to be step 5. Okay, so we'll keep going. We have step 5, and then we come to our first pebble. Step 1, and we come to our first pebble. Well, we know that pebbles are dropped every 10 steps. So this is step 1. This pebble has to be step 10. Okay, then we have step 10 plus a breadcrumb is worth 1. So 10 plus 1 is 11. Then we keep walking and we come across 2 more breadcrumbs, and then this breadcrumb, we need to figure out what the step is. So we have 1, 2, 3 breadcrumbs. So we're at 11 plus 3 more breadcrumbs. I want you to do the math. I'm going to give you a few seconds. We're at 11 and 1, 2, 3 more breadcrumbs. What breadcrumb number is this? 11 plus 3. 14. This is the 14th breadcrumb. We know that this is the this pine cone is dropped every 5, right? So we have 14, 15. So we know that this has to be step number 15. Then we have 15 plus 3 more breadcrumbs, and we have to figure out what this one is. So we have 15 plus 1, 2, 3 more breadcrumbs is 18 breadcrumbs. That's their, excuse me, not 18 breadcrumbs, 18 steps. That's their 18th step. 18, and then we come to another pebble. Well, we know that this pebble was 10, and we know that pebbles are dropped every 10. So we can skip count by 10s to figure this out. 10, 20. So this pebble is the 20th step. We're at the 20th step, and then we have 4 more breadcrumbs, and we have to figure out what step that is. So we have 20 plus 4 more breadcrumbs is 24. That is the 24th breadcrumb. Then we know that this pine cone is dropped every 5 steps, right? So 24, 25, 26. And then we come across our 1, 2, 3, our third pebble. So let's count by let's count by tens. 10, 20. How many steps is this pebble at? Let's do it again. This is step 10, step 20, step 30. We counted by tens. 10, 20, 30. Because every 10 steps, a pebble is dropped. So 30 plus 1 more, we know is 31. And then we come to this last pine cone. Okay, so let's go back to this pine cone. This breadcrumb was step 24. So 24 plus 1 more means this pine cone has to be the 25th pine cone. Okay, so we have not the 25th pine cone, sorry crew, the 25th step. So we're at step number 25, then we come to step 30, and we know that this pine cone is 5 more steps from 30. So we have 30 plus 5 more. I want you to figure out what 30 plus 5 is. And we're at 35. This pine cone is the 35th step. All right, crew. I know that this gets a little bit tricky, and I know that it's really challenging to do it outside of the classroom. So if you need to go back and re-watch videos, I want you guys to take the time to do that. Starting this week on Fridays, we're going to use that as some catch-up time, so that if you're missing a student book page, or if you felt like you were really rushing through something and you need to go back and pay closer attention, you guys have the time to do that. Okay, so this Friday, you're not going to have another lesson. Instead, I'm going to give you some time to get caught up on all of these student book pages and to go back and rewatch some of these videos if you're having a hard time understanding. For today, you're going to do page 58, and it's the same kind of thing that we've been doing, guys. It just has the breadcrumbs added in. So you're going to answer question 1, and they give you the key. Sorry, crew. A breadcrumb is 1 step, a pine cone is 5 steps, and a pebble is 10 steps. Okay, so they want to know how many breadcrumbs, pine cones, and pebbles will you need to mark 10 steps. So you're going to fill in the blanks. Then you're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. Use the clue on these paths to figure out what number belongs in each empty box. Do you see that the birds have come along and eaten some of the breadcrumbs? So in these spaces, guys, that means that the birds came along and they saw, bread, delicious, and they took them and they ate them. But just because it's not there doesn't mean that it's not a step. So you have to figure out the steps in the missing boxes. All right, challenges as always are optional. If you want to do it and challenge yourself, I encourage you to do so. If this is tricky for you and the challenge is a push, don't do it. The biggest thing, guys, that I want you to get out of this is you being able to use addition and subtraction to find the answer and to skip count by 5s and 10s. Doing these activities with breadcrumbs and pebbles and pine cones is one way that we practice these. If you are having a hard time with the breadcrumbs, the pebbles, and the pine cones, but you're very strong at skip counting and using addition and subtraction, that's okay. right? Remember, we're going to teach you a ton of different ways to do things in the hopes that you pick up the same skill. Some things are going to work a little bit better for your brain than others, and it's not a problem if this is tricky for you. If it's tricky for you, I want to know why it's tricky. Is it tricky because we're weak on addition and subtraction? Is it tricky because we're weak on skip counting? Or is it just kind of confusing, but you're really good at both of these? So feel free, guys, to send me some messages, give me some feedback about how you're feeling about these things. Remember, we're always keeping our learning targets in mind, and our targets are adding and subtracting and skip counting by 5s and 10s. All right, so take a picture of your student book page when you're done and upload it to Dojo, and send me any kind of notes if you guys are struggling with things. All right, we'll check in soon.